We have titled this episode, People Don't Learn Inside the Classroom. Now, of course, it's not true. People can learn at some level inside the classroom. But I was watching the news the other day and I heard a teacher advocate talking about absenteeism or kids not being in school. And of course, not advocating for absenteeism at all. But the statement she made was people can't learn when they aren't inside the classroom. And as a learning development person and as somebody who has created a company around this idea that people learn by doing, that kind of set me back for a second. Because how in the world can that be true? And in what world is it true that people can't learn when they aren't inside the classroom? People are learning every day outside the classroom. And so we really believe that learning actually occurs outside of the classroom and not inside the classroom. And so the purpose of this conversation, we're going to call the classroom as any way that we are engaging our learners in a environment where we're giving them the information, right? So that might be an actual classroom, it might be a virtual classroom, it might be e-learning. But the way we're thinking about the classroom is what you think about is when we're giving the learners giving them the information and having them play with it a little bit. So let's talk about the classroom in that sense. So there are some hurdles of the classroom, right? So one is that the space is limited to whatever you have. And even if it's a large scale space, unless it's a simulation type thing, the space is limited. The resources are usually limited because, especially in our line of work, we're working with organizations that may not have a true desire to invest in folks' learning, that the resources are usually limited in a classroom. And you're also limited by the learning professional's ability to actually stimulate practice, right? Because we believe that learning is experience plus reflection. That means for a learning experience to occur, people have to do something and then reflect on it. And so in a classroom setting, and again, maybe e-learning, generally you're limited in how close you can stimulate practice in that environment. It's also sometimes too safe and it limits relevance. So a classroom setting often is, I'm going to get information. I'm kind of orienting to my first exposure to the things that I was supposed to be doing or new behaviors or new ideas. And because we try as facilitators to create a safe environment for people to challenge it, to step outside their comfort zone, sometimes it's so safe that it isn't like the real world. And so the things that we're learning are kind of outside of relevance, and the classroom has that limitation. And generally, the application of the information happens independently and well after the session. So when I think of the classroom, we don't often have the ability to say, hey, go try this thing in this way, and let me help you reflect on that. Maybe I'll give you feedback or a mentor or coach. So the classroom has many hurdles to actual learning. Again, the way we define it is experience plus reflection. Now, I said at the beginning, there is value to the classroom. So some of the values are that we can control the environment and promote focus, right? So we can create activities or specific question prompts to have people engage with the content in a way that it leads them to the behaviors that we want them to ultimately do. We're also able to have control over the learning strategies. So we can activate the prior knowledge, or maybe we can have them practice and reflect, etc. So there's that value. It also generally has focused attention so that we can deliver the information, right? And again, e-learning might not have as valuable a piece as this. Certainly it's still true that we have created a situation where we say, hey, sit down and we'll give you the information. And it also has the opportunity to challenge thinking and promote free thinking with guidance in a way that outside the classroom doesn't necessarily do, right? Because we're outside the classroom applying it to real life. You're just rolling with the thing that you're supposed to be doing, and we don't always step back and challenge somebody's thinking or encourage them to think of different ways. So the classroom has value, but that isn't the only place where learning occurs. And in fact, I see the classroom as the place where you receive information and maybe play with it a little bit, right? I think real learning occurs outside of the classroom. And so why does this matter to somebody like me? When we are trying to create learning experiences and shift behaviors, organizations, by the way, leaders and organizations, you should care about this too. Because if your strategy is, I'm going to have these classroom type things, whether that's e-learning or live classrooms or virtual classrooms, but you never take that and have people do real world on the job training with support, then you're kind of flipping the coin of whether or not the right behaviors are going to be implemented. And so if real learning occurs, and maybe people debate about this and love to hear about those debates and tell me about those, but if you agree with me that real learning occurs in the real world, that as learning professionals, or if you're a leader trying to create a learning strategy, have that as part of the strategy, right? So maybe we have a mentoring program that afterward we're going to connect somebody to it. Or maybe even just leverage your LMS to where we have assignments where a learner goes and does something that came from the classroom, and then have them reflect on it, give them the prompts. And then maybe if you see something, if somebody's actually monitoring those, they can reach out to them, maybe give them additional resources, things like that. So be sure to think about whatever your learning experience is. You have to, if you want really learning to occur and behavior shifts to happen, you have to have a real world component for that. The other thing is that we want to create pathways to application and feedback. Right? There's a lot of different ways to do that. If you have the means to do it, we can, you can set up some sort of mentoring program or support, or maybe just check-ins. So learning does, actually, I'm going to go so far as to say learning doesn't occur in the classroom unless we have created or simulated the real world. Real learning occurs in the real world. And when we can think about that as learning professionals or as leaders who are responsible for your learning program, it starts to reshape the way you're approaching this. And our clients have a lot of success in their learners shifting behaviors, because we are always encouraging this. Okay, yeah, we can create these learning experiences and we think they're important, they're valuable, we need to create that classroom. But what are we going to do to support our learners after this? And I hope you find new ways to do that.